Hello everyone, friends of all ages. Welcome to Her Journey, Her Strength, where we highlight incredible women and listen to their stories. I'm Serena. Our guest is an educator, a clinical psychologist, and a higher education leader whose work has touched students, families, and communities across generations. She has spent her career supporting mental health, building inclusive educational spaces, and reminding us that growth is possible at every stage of life. Let's welcome Breeda McGrath. I'd like to begin with your journey. What inspired you to go down this career path?
It was really mentors. I didn't intend initially to end up in higher education administration. I started out in teaching and I was always interested in psychology. But along the way, different mentors would ask questions, give suggestions, and really see the direction that I was moving in. And they would ask, well, why not? What they would challenge my thinking and they would encourage me when they saw strengths. And so that's, I think, what helped me think of new ideas, follow new opportunities as they arose. And that's how I ended up here.
That makes so much sense. Having mentors who see the potential in you can really shape the path you take.
Yeah, it really did.
You didn't start out planning to become a psychologist either. How did that shape happen?
That's right. I started my first career as a teacher, actually. And I was always interested in why students do things a certain way or, what their motivation was behind something in particular. And I just saw that there were differences between the individuals and I was always trying to understand. And I also thought that it would be super helpful if we had psychologists in schools. Learning is just one aspect of life, and I thought it would be great to have support services that included psychologists in schools. And so I started down that path myself and ended up in graduate school in the US.
I love that. Sometimes a simple why not can open doors we never imagined. That why not mindset feels like such a turning point. Was there one decision in your life that changed everything?
There was. Back in the mid-90s, I decided to come to the US for graduate school, and that changed everything. I decided to study psychology in this culture where I felt like there was a lot of openness to the field of psychology, and I think that was a great decision. It changed the whole direction of my career, my life, the way I saw things. And studying psychology in a different culture changed everything. And it really opened my eyes up to the whole field and really expanded what I was trying to do.
Moving to a new country is such a huge leap. You also had experience as an international student. How did that shape the way you work with students today?
Being an international student really helped me look at things from an outsider perspective. Even though I grew up speaking English and English is the main language in the US, we think about things differently in Ireland. We see things differently, we experience things differently, and the education system was different. And I felt in some ways like an outsider, and so I had to try and understand American culture. And that really helps you in psychology because you really never understand what another person is thinking or feeling. And that kind of learner's perspective, beginner's perspective, was really helpful because you're always learning. And that's an important perspective in psychology, trying to understand every student from a beginning mindset. It really helps you. You don't have as many assumptions. You don't presume you know things just because you speak the same language. Coming from other cultures really helps you to be curious about everything. And so that helped me in psychology.
It's fascinating how those early experiences inform the way you work. And you have worked with both children and adults. How is supporting children psychologically different?
That's a great question. Working with children really calls you to think about the developmental stage they're at. Some aspects can be similar, but really when you work as a psychologist with children, you have to think about what age they are, how their intellectual development is, what they understand, and what something means to them. Children don't think the same way as adults. They don't experience things the same way adults do. And it's important to sort of meet them where they're at developmentally.
And children often surprise us with their insights. Have they taught you about emotional intelligence?
They have. What I've learned from working with children is that they understand themselves better than adults think they do,
Yeah.
oftentimes. If we can really try and understand and see things the way they do, then I think it's easier for us to work with them. Although in reality, I've learned so much from every single person that I've worked with. You really do, if you're listening to what they experience and how they see things, you learn something from every person. Every person is so different, and that's the same for children.
That's such a beautiful perspective. Has being a school psychologist changed the way you see the world?
It has, working with children and adolescents in schools really helped me see that healing is possible at any stage of life in, response to any difficulty. And what I learned was that if children have just even one person who's crazy about them, one person who really supports them, one person who really appreciates them for who they are, they can heal from just about anything. They can grow and learn and develop if they have the right environment. And so I learned that so much more healing is possible than I ever thought.
Belief and support can make all the differences. What are some of the most common mental health challenges you see in students today?
Well, some of the most common mental health challenges are the same kinds of challenges that people have always been dealing with: anxiety, depression, stress, worry. I think the pandemic, though, made a big difference. It increased the level of stress. It increased the difficulties that people were facing. I think uncertainty about their lives, uncertainty about their futures, and I think the rise of social media over the last number of years has also increased the difficulty in identity development. There are so many other pressures, there are so many ways in which people perceive judgment around whether they're good enough or whether or not they have support. So that's been, I think, even harder than it ever has before for students and for kids in schools. For a lot of people, something that makes a big difference is having a healthy support system. A support system is people who listen to you, people who care about you, people in your life that you know love you, and who will help you get through whatever difficulty you're facing. That can make such a difference to people. They don't need someone to solve their problems, they do need somebody to listen to. And so as you think about your own mental health, it's important to make sure that you have a support system, that you develop those people around you, you sustain those relationships. And then trying to have a little bit of, we'll say for workers, some work-life balance. Not just working all the time. Doing things that bring you joy, doing things that help you enjoy yourself, have fun with others, and doing things for other people, not just focusing on yourself.
Such practical and meaningful advice. So what core values that guide you through in your life and work?
So the core value that really guides me is remembering that everyone is equal. That really helps guide my respect towards everyone and understanding that everyone has the same value and unique worth.
And that perspective naturally leads to the way you work with families. So what advice would you give to parents today?
My one piece of advice is to be kind, both to kids and to yourself, right? There are all different kinds of challenges that happen, but kindness, beginning and ending with kindness, is the most important thing.
All right, up next, Breeda joins a group of students for an easygoing conversation. It's a space for honest thoughts, thoughtful questions, and a few lighthearted moments. Let's see where the conversation leads.
Hi, my name is Jessica.
Hi, my name is Tianwei.
Hi, my name is Lena.
My name is Barry.
And my name is Breeda. So one of the things that we think about a lot in psychology is mental health, and one of the things that we've researched a lot about is the role of gratitude. When we find ourselves thinking about what we're grateful for, that helps us in terms of mental health. It helps us feel good about life. It helps us focus on what's good in our lives, and it makes us optimistic, actually. So I was thinking maybe we could have some conversation about what we're grateful for. So I'm wondering if you can all think about and maybe share what you're grateful for.
I think I'm grateful for my family, my friends, all the resources that I have, and like being here today.
That's a lot. That's great. Thanks, Jessica.
I'm grateful for the life I've experienced right now. I enjoy every day. I enjoy everything that comes to me. So I would say I'm grateful for what I've experienced today. Yeah.
That's great. Experience, yeah.
I'm grateful for my had a good sleep, so my body is not tired every day in this morning.
Sleep is important, yeah.
I think my family comes to one side. I'm also like Tim Wei did. I'm grateful for all the person I met. I'm a very lucky person to be with them. And also my parents give me a chance to come to Cali so I can meet those people.
That's fantastic. The people that you meet in your life, your general health and well-being, right?
Yeah.
Good sleep, the experiences that you have in life, and the family and friends and resources you have. That's a lot. Reminding ourselves of all of those different kinds of things can make a difference to actually how you feel in your body, how you start each day, and whether or not you feel well. Sometimes when we have a hard time, we need a reminder, or we need to remind ourselves that even though this thing is difficult, we have a lot to be grateful for. And it can change your mood, and it can change the way you see a problem or you see a challenge. So it sounds like you are already thinking that way. You already have a healthy mentality. So I think next week you start back to school. Are you looking forward to anything in particular next week? Is there anything that comes to mind that's kind of getting you excited?
Well, I've already started school this week, so
Okay.
next week would be my second week. I think the thing I'm looking forward to most is I have a Science Olympiad tournament, my first one ever. So I'm both nervous and really excited for that.
Oh, that's exciting. That's a great opportunity, right? Good for you.
And the same as Jessica, I started my school last week, so which is a quite short term. So next week I'm gonna have a midterm exam
Oh, wow.
on Thursday. So I'm excited, but also nervous about that. But that's what the main thing I'm looking forward to next week.
And getting it over and done with too, right? Yes, yeah, good for you.
Yeah, I guess next week is my come back school. I learn language because like, my English is not good, so I will learn language now.
That's great, yeah.
I also already started for 1 week. So next week I'm going to start to act the first monologue I ever had in my life.
Oh, really?
And that's really tough for me. So I'm
Yeah.
only nervous, no excited.
Do you think you'll succeed?
We'll see.
We'll see.
No idea.
We'll see. That's a really important point, though, balancing nervousness with excitement. And I think sometimes focusing on what you can accomplish, focusing on the energy you have to at least try
Yeah.
is important. You have a goal, right? You have a goal. We all have goals. And so being excited about it, being optimistic about how you can succeed can be really important. So Serena, can you think of anything that you're grateful for or something that you're looking forward to?
I'm really grateful for having all my friends supporting me. Like whenever I have a hard time where I'm experiencing a lot of things at once, I can talk to my friends and then like share what I'm experiencing, and they'll always give me like a lot of advice and give me the energy to make me to be brave enough to like face all the things happening in my life, no matter it's like good or bad. So I'm really grateful for having all my friends supporting me. And my goal, like at least for 2026, is just to accomplish something I never accomplished before, like something challenging, something exciting. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. It sounds like you've built up a great support system
Yeah.
with your friends and family,
Mhm.
and it sounds like you sustain that, and you're going to bring that into your new goals for
Yeah.
the year.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. So as we think about the environments that we're in, what do you think like for you, a mentally healthy school would look like? You know, what's a place that would help you stay optimistic, stay grateful, balance that excitement with challenge? What would it look like?
I think my school's done a good job at doing this. They have a lot of resources that we can go to when we need help. We have counselors that we can talk to. We've recently built a new Serenity Center, so students can go there during classes or after classes to like debrief and it's like a resting center and stuff. So I think that's really good opportunities.
Wow, that would be nice in a workplace too. That's a great idea.
And to me, I want to bring out a interesting pressure comes to me is peer pressure.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to define which one is negative, which one will be a positive peer pressure. So I believe a mentally health school would have some sort of peer pressure, but it can also be considered as a positive one. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
It does, because if you've got people around you who are trying to, you know, be healthy, do good things, that can have an influence on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I think is have a great and patient teacher, and have a great and relaxed learning environment.
Yeah.
Yes, and you do something you can feel relaxed and interesting. Do you like favorite things? Yeah.
That's a great point, that you need both a supportive teacher and a calm, relaxed learning environment to
Yes.
really do well, right? And having some of your favorite things in there can really help. Yeah. What do you think, Barry? What makes a mentally healthy school?
I think environment and a good professor which can help you to contribute what you wanted to do in the school, that's really helpful. Also, the atmosphere between the students are also important.
Both pieces, yeah, that makes sense. Any thoughts from you, Serena?
Well, I think a mentally healthy school could be a community where people can build real connections, and also a judgment-free zone where every student's ideas are acceptable.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Well, that's a good vision for schools for the future.
What a thoughtful and eye-opening conversation. Hearing these students share their perspectives really gave us a fresh way of thinking about mental health and school life. Thank you, Breeda. It's inspiring to see how open dialogue can turn a school community into a space full of possibility. All right, let's hear some questions from our young friends.
Hi, Breeda. What was the hardest part coming to the U.S. as an international student, and how did you overcome it?
So the hardest part of being an international student in the US was that I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know the educational system. It was a new culture for me, and I didn't know what the expectations were. And so I overcame that by just treating myself as a learner, you know, not expecting myself to know everything that I didn't already know, and seeing every new experience as a learning opportunity and being patient.
Hi, Mrs. McGrath. What daily habits or routines help keep you grounded?
So a couple of things I do to stay grounded are trying to exercise on a regular basis. Journaling really helps me just get my thoughts out and reflect on what's going on. And then taking some time to read. Reading is always a relaxing activity for me. And if I can do those things as part of my daily routine, it really helps.
Hi, Breeda. How do you balance school and life?
So keeping everything in balance is kind of an impossible task, right? This work-life balance idea is a tough one. One of the things that really helps me is to really have a job that makes me happy, that brings me joy, that's really meaningful for me, because that means then that I'm doing something that's both personally rewarding and professionally rewarding. Other things I do are to sort of schedule time to talk to friends and family, to make sure that that's just part of my daily routine, my weekly routine. And then kind of a funny thing I do is I remind people on my team that they need some work-life balance. When I'm telling them, then I have to remind myself. And I include some gratitude in there, and that really makes a difference. So it's a work in progress. It's not perfect any week, but it's something that I know it's helping me stay healthy.
If you could give one piece of advice to students who feel lost, what would it be?
So a lot of people at various different points in life feel lost because they're not certain about what's coming next. And one of the things that I have seen work for people, and I know it's worked for me as well, is being kind and being patient with yourself. You know, you don't know what will come next, but one thing I can tell you is that every new challenge, every new experience will teach you something. And so the experience of going through a difficult challenge will actually give you some confidence in the future and evidence of what your strengths are. So treat yourself with compassion, with kindness, and you'll get there.
What an inspiring conversation. Thank you, Breeda, for sharing your journey. Your dedication to supporting students, fostering mental health, and believing in the potential of every individual is truly remarkable.
Thanks so much, Serena. This was a really good experience.
We hope you walk away knowing that mental health matters, and staying connected to people who listen, support, and care can make even the hardest moments feel more manageable. Keep challenging, keep nurturing. If there's a voice from any field you'd like to hear, feel free to follow us on Instagram and YouTube and leave a comment. We'll do our best to make it happen. Until then, stay bold. This is Serena, class dismissed. See you next time.
Be part of the Foundation.